What's up, Taiwan? I'm Eric out in Taipei, bringing you the latest news. Allies of President Lai Ching-te are jumping to his defense after he said that the ROC is older than the PRC, and therefore China cannot be the motherland. He made those comments at an event over the weekend, drawing an angry response from opposition lawmakers who called his words provocative. Our reporter Louise Want has more from our Taipei newsroom. Louise, why is this comment seen as so controversial?
It wasn't an off-the-cuff speech from President Lai. He is deliberately challenging the political rhetoric from China. For example, this notion that Taiwan has been a part of China since ancient times. Now, he was speaking at a concert to mark the National Day celebrations for the Republic of China. That's Taiwan's official name. And the Republic of China was established in China in 1911. And the People's Republic of China, that's Communist China, that wasn't established until almost 40 years later in 1949. And it's at that time that the ROC government moved to Taiwan. So President Lai is saying because of this historical fact, there is no way that China can be the motherland to the ROC, to Taiwan. Now, why is he doing this? Well, it's always been accepted that if the Taiwanese government one morning woke up and declared formal independence from China, that would be a red line for Beijing, and they could very well invade Taiwan. So what President Lai is doing is what his predecessor, President Tsai, did. And they're saying they're getting around this by saying there's no need for Taiwan to declare formal independence because they're already an independent nation, the ROC. It's controversial, though, because there have been fears that Lai would go further than his predecessor, President Tsai. He's seen as more hot-headed. And there have been fears that he might say something to provoke China or give them an excuse to attack Taiwan. In one example, last month, he also made controversial remarks by saying that if China's claim over Taiwan was simply about territorial integrity, then it should be trying to claim back some of Russia. Now, China's response at the time was that Lai is making cross-strait relations increasingly complex and difficult. But lawmakers from Lai's ruling party, they've jumped to his defense. They've said that he's simply stating basic facts and logic to prove that Taiwan and China are separate from one another. Now, we'll have more analysis on Lai's speech now. Tiffany Wong spoke to Zhong Jiayan, a political scientist at the National University of Singapore.
Could you tell me first, where are Lai's comments coming from, and are they in line with previous presidents' statements?
So Lai's comments really come from the very entangled history of Taiwan, the Republic of China, and the People's Republic of China. It also brings up questions of what you think China is or is not. So there is the view that the ROC, the Republic of China, established in 1912, predates the People's Republic of China, established in 1949. That is a historical fact. I think where Lai would be more similar to presidents really starting from Li Denghui in the 90s, but including Ma Ying-jeou, etc., would be to insist on Taiwan and so the Republic of China, Taiwan, being distinct and separate, not subordinate to the People's Republic of China. There tends to be confusion over the sort of formal name Republic of China, Taiwan, and China. China as a cultural and political entity, it pre-existed, before the ROC and the PRC came about. There was a China. It's just that the PRC today wants to claim that history.
One of the concerns about Lai as president was that he might make provocative statements towards China. Would you consider this one of them?
I don't think it's provocative, but I think there are two things going on. One is there is some confusion, and secondly, there has been an ongoing effort to paint Lai as provocative and dangerous by the PRC, but others as well. So where the confusion lies is I've seen a lot of the reporting surrounding Lai's speech saying that Taiwan is it's a statement about Taiwan sovereignty, and it's not. And that Taiwan is not part of China, that he's rejecting China. So this gets to what I mentioned earlier about what you think China is. If you think China is exclusively the People's Republic of China, then by saying that Taiwan is not subordinate, I suppose one view would be to say, well, that's provocative to Beijing. But Beijing finds many things that they don't find consistent with their own narrative provocative.
Now, these were just comments that he made leading up to Taiwan's National Day. When can we expect a reaction from Beijing? And do you think that he'll continue to make these sort of statements at the actual National Day speech?
I think Lai will continue with these comments because they draw a line of consistency between himself and Taiwan, and at least to Ma Ying-jeou, right? This non-mutual subordination between the ROC and the PRC, this idea that Taiwan is a distinct entity, which has truth to it insofar as Beijing does not rule Taiwan, it is unable to impose its writ on Taiwan, right? So that is an empirical fact. Now, to sort of draw that continuity also allows Lai to demonstrate that he is actually not being provocative. I think the bigger response will probably be to his double 10th National Day speech on October 10th, right? And that's perhaps when we will see a more fully formed response from Beijing and efforts to sort of really shape the narrative.
That was Song Jia-yan from the National University of Singapore. Former President Tsai will reportedly travel overseas this week for the first time since leaving office, heading to the Czech Republic. Sources who spoke on condition of anonymity say that Tsai is planning to deliver a speech at the Forum 2000 conference in Prague, an occasion to support democracy and human rights. It would be a sensitive trip for the former leader, who Beijing has repeatedly labeled a separatist. Tsai is expected to spend 8 days in the Czech Republic and 2 other European countries. Taiwan's defense minister has been questioned over the U.S. overcharging for missiles sold to Taiwan in 2020. He insists that Taiwan will be reimbursed. Joyce Tseng has the details.
Taiwan's defense minister has come out to shed more light on a recent U.S. arms price gouging scandal in a confidential meeting with lawmakers, some of them asking whether it erodes Taiwan's all-important relationship with its largest arms supplier, the U.S. Defense Minister Wellington Koo had already previously stated that Taiwan will be paid back what it was overcharged by U.S. defense giant RTX, formerly known as Raytheon. And today, in the public portion of the briefing, the Defense Ministry affirming still strong U.S.-Taiwan ties, pointing to a recent fruitful defense conference in Philadelphia. But what we still don't know is just how much RTX overcharged Taiwan. There's been concerns about the multiple million-dollar price tags of RTX arms like the Patriot missile and long-range early warning radars, which also take over $1 billion to maintain. Pointing to potential co-production of military tech between the U.S. and Taiwan, opposition party lawmaker Ma Wen-jun asked Koo whether Taiwan would be getting the short end of the stick in this partnership.
我们希望台湾不要变成代工，把它做出来以后，再回到美国，美国再卖来台湾给我们，这样我们真的也是一个盘子。好，这个是我们可能料想到的可能发生的事情，在这里我们先提出来。
不是卖给我们吧，是打入国际吧？这应该是委员这样的讲，好像是有点讲的。没有，
这个像部长。 我们希望它不要发生啊！如果我们自己已经可以帮他做，表示我们自己就可以做。你都已经要发展产业园区，你自己都已经科研出来的东西，如果我们帮人家代工，然后再去高价买回来，这样这是对不起国人的。
The worry among some lawmakers is that Taiwan will be taken advantage of. In this particular case, with RTX, Koo reminded that the contract is between Taiwan and the U.S., not Taiwan and RTX, putting the full responsibility on Washington to refund the full amount wrongfully taken from Taipei. Howard Zhang and Joyce Sun in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Rallies and vigils are being held across the world to mark the one-year anniversary of the October 7th attack on Israel that triggered the war in Gaza. From Tel Aviv and London to Paris and Berlin, thousands of people have gathered to remember the victims of the Hamas attack that killed more than 1,000 people, with hundreds of others taken hostage. In Jerusalem, there were renewed calls for Israel's government to negotiate the release of the remaining hostages. There were also multiple pro-Palestinian rallies. The conflict has killed nearly 42,000 people in Gaza and displaced nearly all of the 2.3 million people there. Here in Taipei, rallies and vigils have also been held, with some calling on Taiwan's government to stop sales of arms components to Israel and to the U.S. Chinese winemakers are experimenting with new tech to save their industry from climate change. Jonathan Kaplan has this story.
Purple grapes ripen on the vine, not in Bordeaux, Tuscany, or Napa, but in the northwest of China. This vineyard in Ningxia is at the heart of China's wine industry and efforts to protect it from a changing climate. This part of China is bitterly cold in winter, forcing growers to bury their vines to keep them safe. But winters are warming, leading farmers to question whether the grape varieties they use will hold up in the coming decades, as rising temperatures bring a different set of problems. For the head of this experimental farm, genetics could hold the key.
他就是想着通过杂交，将它的亲本、父本与母本的优良的性状，比方说我的父本，它的抗寒或抗旱性比较好一点，而我的母本呢，它的果实的品质或者说它酿出酒的风味、口感更加让人愉悦。
The research backing up this crossbreeding program takes place in far-off Beijing, where labs use AI to speed up the process of evaluating up to 20,000 new genotypes per year. The lab does mathematical modeling too, to predict where in China we'll see the best growing conditions on a hotter planet.
We want to know if we plant some vineyards in a given position, whether that position will keep the sustainability in the context of climate change. So what will happen in the next 10 years, 30 years, or 50 years, or 100 years? So to do that, we have to use a coupling of prediction of climate with the different scenarios, and also with mathematical modeling work to see what will be the performance of the wine.
Chinese winemakers are betting that a changing global climate will mean consumer attitudes favoring pure varieties will have to shift in favor of hybrids like these. Above all else, though, they hope to create wines with a distinctive Chinese flavor. Growers from other parts of China are already coming to appreciate these wines.
他们对我们这个中国自己的品种，就北红北美啊，他们尝了我们自己做的酒，看了我们的葡萄园栽培模式，他们信心越来越足，他们觉得这个品种一定能做出具有中国特色的葡萄酒。
2023 saw global wine production drop 10%, largely due to severe weather conditions. Chinese producers want to stay a step ahead of droughts and other events to keep their vintages flowing. Leon Lien, John Van Trieste, and Jonathan Kaplan for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan is preparing to celebrate its National Day on October 10th with military fanfare, cultural performances, and a much-anticipated speech by President Lai Ching-te. Crowds gathered in front of the presidential office in Taipei over the weekend to watch rehearsals ahead of the holiday on Thursday. Spectators were delighted by military drills, a dragon dance, cheerleaders, and jet flyovers. A Chinook helicopter carried a giant Republic of China flag over the city.
国旗有就在天上那个飞机飞过去，就很撼动人心啊，对吧？我刚刚都站起来敬礼啊。
Now, TaiwanPlus will be covering the National Day celebrations live from 9 a.m. to noon local time on Thursday. You can watch online at TaiwanPlus.com. And thank you for joining us this afternoon for What's Up Taiwan. I'm Eric Gao. Take care, and we'll see you next time.